because this is a knock the top of your heads off presentation, yes or yes, right? This is where your head starts spinning and you're like, what reality am I in? Well, you're at the New Living Expo for starters, and that's a different reality for all of us. I'm Dr. Brenda Wade. I'm known as the Modern Love Doctor, and you may be thinking, what does love have to do with our next speaker? You want to guess? Everything, because he is going to expand our minds, our awareness, raise our consciousness, and conscious people with tools have better love. So I want to quickly tell you just a little bit about Corey Goode. Is that good? That was like a trick question. You say, that's good, because that's his name. Say, that's good. All right. You guys look great. The energy in here is insane. All you high vibration beings. So Corey has a very extensive bio. I'll tell you a few facts. I don't want you to go, I've heard all that before. But I will tell you a secret about him, too, at the end, so be patient. I asked him if I could tell you something about him that's not in the bio, and he did tell me something. All right, so Corey Goode, what do you know about him already? Right, okay. And did somebody say that he is also like a super interesting, mysterious being? Because he was, from the very young age of 6, identified as an intuitive empath, all right, an IE. What is that? IE, intuitive empath, and he was inducted into something called MILAB, M-I-L-A-B. That's military training for people with special abilities. Yes, we're talking about the Men in Black, all right? He definitely was in that group, and he was assigned to an e-support role for rotating Earth delegate seat shared by secret Earth government groups. Now, this sounds like something we'd see in a movie, but it's true. He actually had these experiences. He's going to talk about them. He was in that program from 1976 to 1986. That's 10 years. A lot happened in 10 years. His abilities played an important role in communicating and interfacing with aliens. You all know, extraterrestrials. So using empathic ability to connect was a key. He'll talk about that too, but some of you may not know that during his 20-year service, he had a variety of experiences and assignments, including intruder, intercept, interrogation. That makes my heart go, oh. All right. Now, he's working today with the information technology and communications industry. He has a brand new business, and his business partner and producer is here to tell you just a little bit about it and to tell you how the format of today's talk will be, because it's going to be something different. It's not what we traditionally do where the speaker just speaks at you. But I want to tell you the secret about Corey Goode. In his spare time, which isn't a lot, Corey flies drones. All right, so there you have it. It kind of fits with what he's been doing, doesn't it? All right, so I'd like you to welcome to the stage first his business partner, Roger Richards, who is his producer and who's going to tell you about this brand new thing that they're up to, and then you're going to give the hugest New Living Expo welcome to Corey Goode. Would you do that, please? Oh, and there's a raffle going on, before I forget. At the back table, Diane, stand up and wave. There's Diane over there in the green. Sign one of those forms, and you could win one of 2 of the fantastic master keys that are being raffled off. If you went to the meditation lounge, or if you're going to go, that device that puts your brain in theta waves in 6 minutes is going to be raffled off. It's an $895 piece of equipment. 2 will be raffled off today. All right, is that good? All right, ready to welcome to the stage first, Richard Rogers. This is Richard. I'm sorry, it's Roger Richards. Got that.
How you guys doing? The energy in this room here is quite strong. How many of you, when you first heard Corey, had a direct connection from the heart? Felt like it hit you there? How many of you guys, in your journey in life here, connect with the idea of being oversensitive or hypersensitive? How about Starseeds? Anybody connect with that? I've been an activist most of my life, and through my younger years, I learned, I guess, a hard lesson that there are certain formats of activism that just don't work. And so I became an entrepreneur, and I looked at how you can affect the world through infecting the system. How you can, from inside, infiltrate the system that exists around us in the net that keeps us down and change it from within. When Corey and I first met, it was in Mount Shasta, actually, in person. There was a real strong connection with a solid group of us. And over the past 6 or 8 months, there has been a movement, essentially, of artists and business professionals and everybody who feels at the core of their being that what they've done on this planet has led up to this right now. Whether you're a cook, a taxi cab driver, a business owner, everything has led up to right now. And people are showing up in droves to do something about it. How do you do something about it? So in this process, we started looking at how do we get the message and the testimony out to the broader public? Because the ones here, you guys are all awake. You guys all know this. How many of you have a hard time reaching out to family members talking about this? It's nearly impossible, right? And the reason for that is that people's reality bubbles, it's hard to let go of security. When you're faced with the truth, it's scary. It's one of those things that brings up a lot of fear. Right now, everyone on this planet is being faced with their fears. It's a clear, period. There's no escape. That is what's happening. The people in these rooms, people like Corey, other speakers that are doing the work, this is the front lines right now to do the work for the rest of the world. So as we started getting into looking at how do we do this, the creativity started showing up. Like I said, I've been an artist all my life, and one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen is collaboration. Some of the most brilliant, powerful, sparks of light come out of collaboration. When people get together and the intentions are connected from the heart and from creativity, that's what makes us unique. That's why we're here. We started getting together, we started talking about ideas. How can we get this out there? How can we reach people that are closed down? How can we reach the mainstream? Let's start with a comic book, Let's start with people that their consciousness is already primed for this type of stuff, sci-fi, fantasy. These are concepts that are not so far. And regardless if the message is taken as truth, it's the message that matters, and planting those seeds right now is what matters, because when things start coming out into the public, people will recognize that. They'll see it, they'll know it, and they'll feel it. So what started as a comic book idea has now blossomed into a full movement of film, book, comic books, and events. Our group, and anybody who would like to participate on that level, is welcome to connect with us and talk to us about that. But we're going out into the world with this message in whatever means necessary. And I encourage all of you that any ideas that you've had building inside you, any dreams that you've had, anything that you've held back from in this moment and thought that you couldn't do it, this is the time to absolutely, relentlessly do it, and it will open up. Every time you make a step, you have to trust that that step ahead of you is just going to show up, regardless of how insane the idea feels. If it's connected from the heart and it's impassioned, this is where to show up now. So, without further ado, because I've been blabbing a lot, I'm going to introduce here Corey Goode.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Roger Richards and Corey Gale. Before I forget this, come on up here, Corey Goode. Woo! And I was meant to tell you, Corey is going to be at Contact in the Desert, May 19th through the 21st. Get on that website. It's the Joshua Tree Retreat Center, and this is the weekend. It's epic. Everybody who is in any way remotely connected to what Corey is about is going to be there. So check it out. Corey Goode, everyone.
Thank you. That was great, Roger. He forgot, I think he forgot one thing. We're going to do a little bit of a different format, more of an interactive format. So as I'm going through the slides, you'll notice most of them are put in the form of a question. I also want anyone who has a question, if I haven't gone deep enough or if there's something else you want to know, raise your hand and we'll come to you and you'll ask a question. You can ask the question. If you have a question that doesn't pertain to what we're talking about, wait until after. We're going to do a Q&A and then hopefully a meet and greet afterwards. Okay? Is that good? Okay. Ready? Okay. Of course, we're talking about the Mandela effect and the optimal temporal reality or optimal timeline. What is the Mandela effect? Raise your hand if you do not know. I'm sure pretty much everyone here, or a lot of people, know. Okay. In 2013, Nelson Mandela dies, and it's announced. And thousands of people across the country were pretty confused, and I was one of them, because I remember Nelson Mandela being announced dying in prison years before. Anyone here remember that? Okay, so a small number. Okay. And raise your hand if you remember Nelson Mandela actually dying in 2013. Don't remember hearing about him dying in prison. Interesting, okay. Millions of people have reported the phenomenon, and I've noticed it myself. What are the different theories of what's occurring? Are we experiencing alternate realities? Is there something occurring like CERN that is splitting space-time or causing a strange merging of other realities? And are we having false memories? Psychologists and psychiatrists have used Occam's razor, which we hear all the time, and stated the most likely scenario is that people are having false memories, which is, you know, they need to explain why a certain number of the population are having the exact same false memory. Are they the effects of time travel? Now, I think we've all heard of the different programs where people traveled back in time that went on for some time. But they realized that they were fracturing space-time and the current timeline. So they started going back trying to fix those problems, causing more problems. And finally, a non-terrestrial group visited us and told us that we needed to stop messing around going back in time because time was elastic, and just like space, it'll snap back together. And that could explain some of the things that we see with the Mandela effect. And of course, the psychologists, you know, say it's an effect of confabulation, clinical term for memory defects. Okay. We picked out a few examples. There were hundreds of examples online. We picked out a few that I actually experienced. And raise your hand if you remember it being Oscar Mayer with an E. Okay, that's what I remember. No, it's Oscar Mayer. You know, and we did some research. There are, you know, there has been changes in marketing and that kind of a thing, but there are, you look back at old commercials, you cannot find commercials or ads with them in the old configuration. The first one to the left. Yeah, Oscar, M-E-Y-E-R, is what I remember. And a lot of people don't remember that, ever. Of course, I remember Sex and the City. I mean, the show was on all the time, I remember that. And raise your hand if you remember it as Sex and the City. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, And little things. Do you remember him having a monocle? Yeah? If you don't remember him having a monocle, raise your hand. Okay. And of course, the one that everyone talks about, the bear-stained bears. And yes, I remember it as the Berenstein Bears. And now it's Berenstain Bears. And the Kit Kat bar. How many people remember the dash in the middle of Kit Kat? Yeah. How many don't remember it ever being there? I mean, the person next to you that raised their hand when you didn't, are they from a different timeline? You know, are you from a different timeline? Or do one of the two of you have a memory defect? This is the one I had the hardest problem with when I actually watched it, because I remember Luke, I am your father. I remember comedians using it. I remember it being Luke, I am your father. And when I watched it again, and it said, no, I am your father, I was heavily puzzled. Does anyone here not remember it being Luke, I am your father? Okay, that's universally strange. And of course, Field of Dreams, if you build it, he will come. That was used in a lot of comedy routines, sitcoms would repeat that. Now if you watch the movie, it's if you build it, they will come. And some people have researched it and talked to the original screenwriters and people involved with the movies, and the people are baffled. They say, no, it was always they will come. How did Rautier explain this effect? As I mentioned on Cosmic Disclosure, I was shown kind of a curtain of, it looked almost like crystalline rods all lined up perpendicular, and they were kind of turning. And as they were turning, I was seeing all these different scenes that would become blurry and then become crystal clear. Strange things like nuclear bombs going off in a large city in the United States, dirty bombs going off, a meteor hitting the ocean. And I asked what I was seeing, and Thierry said that there has been a merging of timelines, and it's occurring from a number of different things. The energetic changes that are occurring in our solar system, the mass consciousness is guiding these changes, and there is also indeed this almost elastic effect to space-time that begins to bring temporal realities, collapsing them back in on each other. So apparently, at one point, we were all horrified to see a nuclear bomb go off in a city in the US. But something occurred in this Mandela effect to where none of us remember it or experienced it. So talking about these different commercials and products, that was a very small scale of the Mandela effect. It's happening on a large scale as well, and many people have no memory whatsoever of the different timelines. The codependent superconsciousness. Oh. I was shown by Thierry what our superconsciousness was because I just wasn't getting it when he was trying to explain it. My third density mind was not wrapping around it. What he did is he basically pulled me out of my body because there was no other way to view this. And as I was expanding, I was seeing all these different, souls that are alive now, from humanity. And as I started being pulled further and further away, each individual became almost like a pixel. And I saw this super being. And this super being had a very feminine energy about it, and it had a very traumatized energy about it, as though it had, it was related to me very much like a battered wife, and it has PTSD. This is our superconsciousness is in this state, and basically, what was related to me is that different groups, like the reptilians, they have a codependent relationship with us, to where they're the abusers. They're supposed to be learning through this process as well, their superconsciousness. And then we have the superconsciousness of other non-terrestrial races that are like the neighbor next door that intervenes when domestic violence occurs. That was a difficult concept for me to understand, to be honest, that we're existing, making decisions, and experiencing things on such a wide range of levels. You know, the superconsciousness is relying on each of us to, I guess, get where we need to be to help heal the PTSD and get it over the point to where it can start healing again. And apparently it's not at that point yet. Are starseeds more able to witness or understand the effect of the Mandela effect? It seems that a lot of the people that are noticing these changes identify themselves as starseeds. And we've been seeing starseeds activated like we've never seen before. People contacting us, very excited about their mission for the first time. Everyone around them is excited. I'm sure half of you, if not more, are, have a mission and are looking for a way to make sure that you can achieve that mission. Raise your hand if you feel like you're here for a reason. You're on a mission? So what is the most optimal timeline? The most optimal timeline, I guess, is what we see in all of our different belief systems. This ascension event, becoming a fourth density being, and leaving behind all of the pain and hurt that we've held on to that's anchoring us to third density. The way we navigate to this optimal timeline is that we have to hit our missions with intent. It's time for us to come together, put aside all of our different belief systems, understand that none of us have all the answers, no matter who is up on what stage, and that we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for the truth. If we can come together under that flag, then no one can stop us. Oh, what happened? Can time be manipulated? It can, and it has been manipulated. That was a major issue that was caused by our early programs, especially when we first, the torsion field drives that we had were, in the 1980s, were the top of the line. But in the 90s, they developed temporal drives. These temporal drives let them jump enormous distances in space-time. But when you're that far advanced in technology, if you're traveling in space, you're a time traveler too. You can travel back in time. I've mentioned before, it's very possible that our ancient aliens haven't even discovered us yet. They could, in 2030, come flying up to our solar system, discover us, and decide to start flying back in time and watch us evolve to where we are now. These abilities, all of the most advanced beings have that ability. They can travel through time as easily as they can space. And I think I covered that. Time is elastic. No one's had any questions yet? What? What is the co-creative consciousness? The co-creative consciousness is something that we have naturally that the powers that be want to keep us ignorant of. They use our co-creative consciousness as their black magic. They will plant a seed in our co-creative consciousness, and then usually what catalyzes that seed is emotion. They'll do a false flag, or they'll have a media event that will cause people to have a strong emotion that will catalyze the seed that they had planted. So they are basically tricking us into using our own powers against us. If we learn to use our co-creative consciousness, it's over for them. That's why they keep this group of people here. They use divide and conquer. They keep us at each other's throats, just, debating all of our different belief systems. There's a reason for that. We're a major danger to them.
We got a question right here, Corey.
Hi, my name is Tanya. What you just said about that described exactly what I thought I read about when Mandela died, or supposedly died in prison. The powers that be, and I don't know that much about politics, but down in Africa, they were concerned about the mass uniting and supporting and getting too much personal power from Mandela, so they put that lie out that he died to break the momentum and to break their connection with Mandela, to control the people, so that when he actually got out and died, that upward spiral of energy that they were having in their connection with him was broken, and then he came out, and it's sort of like the momentum fizzled a little bit, and then he just went on, lived his life, and he...
I'd heard that too, but I'd also heard that the people that have researched looking back at the media archives were unable to find any of the announcements of his death.
I saw the announcement of his death, and I intuitively...
If you can find any archives, that would be
I
an
intuitively
interesting
knew it
thing.
was a lie, so I went looking for the information, and intuitively I knew somebody put it out as bullshit. But anyway, my other question for you was, who is Ra? Who is that?
Who is what?
Ra.
Oh, Ra Tier.
Ra Tier.
Well, raise your hand if you watch Cosmic Disclosure. Or raise your hand if you don't watch Cosmic Disclosure. Okay. Have you heard of the Blue Avians? Okay, Ra Tier Air is the one that interfaces with me the most. He's one of the Blue Avians. Okay.
So for everyone, as we're going through here, if you want to raise your hand, I'll pick you out as you guys are talking, and I'll walk up, and when Corey takes a pause, I'll bring you the mic.
Hi, Corey.
Hello.
I have a question going back to when you said about feeling like the energy was a battered wife, or, battered wife syndrome. And what came to me to ask is that Mother Earth? Would that be the energy that we're all experiencing in?
That's a good question. And on the level that I was shown, this was not Gaia. This was not Mother Earth. This was this was the mass consciousness of human beings, not animals, minerals, the spirit of the Gaia. It wasn't any of that. It was just the mass consciousness of human beings here on Earth.
We'll do one more question here, and then we'll move on and keep going.
Could you explain what starseed means?
Yes, there's a number of terms for starseed, but a starseed is a person who took on a mission. Basically, you could be a different terrestrial, non-terrestrial group, a different higher density group, and you make some sort of a soul contract agreement to come and incarnate here on Earth for a mission. I would imagine almost everyone here is exactly a starseed. I mean, Raise your hand if you think you're a starseed. I mean, the ones who didn't, you're probably a starseed or you wouldn't be here. I'm going to move along. Are y'all liking this format? Okay. We're trying out a few different formats. We thought we would try this one. It seems to be working out. How is our co-creative consciousness used against us? And I discussed that with the black magic the cabal uses. They'll maybe have a movie about a large earthquake or terrorist event, and then they will have a false flag, and then our co-creative consciousness will make it possible for something larger to occur. There are a lot of different levels that they use it at, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with how black magic is used and how much consciousness plays into it. Raise your hand if you consented to be a free-range slave. Nobody? I don't remember that either. How did we give consent for those to use our co-creative consciousness against us? Well, one of the biggest ways is through apathy, lack of action, lack of standing up and fighting back. Many of us are primed to do that and are already doing that. All of those who are asleep, the vast majority of this mass consciousness that we were talking about, this mass consciousness being, they are steering the ship right now. But as you know, a small rudder can change the course of a ship. A small number of people who claim the power of our co-creative consciousness and begin to demand that suppressed technologies are released, that's how we're going to make things happen. We're not going to have someone come and make an announcement on the news or a government official. We're going to have to demand it and get out, protest, do the mass meditations. It's time for us to come together and work on this. Do you agree? And of course, how we stop this hijacking of our co-creative consciousness is being aware of what they're doing. Now that you're aware, and you probably were already aware, but if we can make other people aware of what's going on, the tactics won't work. What is the 100th monkey effect? Oh, you have a question? Hang on just a second. We'll get the mic.
It make me run all the way over here.
I think the person back there has a question too.
Okay. Hi, Corey. I'm Greg, and how you doing? What was my question? Go back one slide. Go back one slide. I actually forgot. I just need to see. Oh, what do we do about the psychotronics? In my experience of learning about this, I've run into, after learning things, being very heavily triggered, my friends and whatever. And it seems to me, myself, most of the time, if I'm aware of who I am, whatever, I can kind of counter it now. But for those that don't know it, and most people don't, it is so, well, people don't know this, it's even possible for this to be happening. And it seems like it needs to be stopped, but maybe not by us. Maybe we do need help with it. Do you have any opinion on that?
Psychotronics?
The psychotronic mind control, the technical
Well,
mind control.
there are many levels of it. There are advanced ET craft in orbit that also use relays on Earth that have a giant grid to suppress our consciousness, and basically it's mind control. We have social mind control, all these different social norms, that if you don't want your people breeding outside of your race, then you make up all these, social rules for them. Well, that's a type of mind control. Every single one of us is on some level of mind control, no matter how awake we are. But for us to finally break these tools that are being used against us, it's very difficult to defend against them, if not impossible. It's almost impossible. So it's going to have to come to a tipping point to where we have some sort of revolution, not a violent one, but one that a revolution of ideas and people getting out, like I was just saying, to basically topple the powers that be. I mean, it's until then, I've seen these technologies used. You really can't protect yourself once you've been targeted. Right.
It just seems to me that it may be beyond humans to break the chains to help us start evolving.
Well, basically what I've been told is to get off our knees, to stop looking for someone else to solve our problems and saving us. We've contributed to the problem, so we're going to have to contribute to the solution. Yeah. So each of us, we are the savior that we've been waiting for. And the only thing you were waiting for now is for us to claim that power as, sovereign human beings. One more? Okay.
So for this co-creative consciousness, and I feel like there's a tipping point, like a number, do we know of a number that makes from mass consciousness to our power as the co-creators in this room and the starseeds that are here? Is there a number that we're looking for to hit? How many people can we impact to make that ripple effect happen and then shift so that the mass consciousness is now in this co-creative consciousness in a positive way?
You just beautifully set me up for the 100th monkey effect. Thank you. Exactly what she was asking. The 100th monkey effect, and I can't cite it verbatim for you, but it was a study that they had observed apes or monkeys of some sort that began to use tools, certain tools, and using them in a certain way. And they'd never seen them do this before. Well, people that were observing them many miles away, separated by ocean, even I believe on islands, about the exact same time, the same species started using the same tools in the same way. And they're trying to reconcile, how did that happen? Is there some sort of connection with all of their consciousness to where information flows back and forth on a level that they are not aware of, and of course we're not aware of? Well, those of us in the room would say absolutely yes, that's occurring. Does that answer your question? Okay. Someone? Oh. I borrowed David Wilcox's clicker, and I think it's as old as he's been doing presentations. What is the observer effect? One of the things that you don't hear talked about very often in science is that if you observe an experiment, you can change the outcome or have an effect on the outcome of that experiment. They've done a lot of studies on this. That is a hint, and the reason they're not telling us about that, that's a major hint that our co-creative consciousness has an effect on time, space, and matter. We can manifest things. And the more we have an understanding of that, and the more we come together as a group, we can manifest things. And that's also how such a small number of people can manifest the, I guess, most optimal temporal reality. And we're the people that can do it if we get together. How can mass meditation and focused intent change the world? Everyone here, I'm sure, is aware of all the different mass meditation groups. We definitely need to get all of those together, focused on one single intent. There have been studies that show that if there was one study to where a bunch of people got together and meditated on lowering crime, and crime lowered. So there have been studies that show, in addition to the observer effect, that we have an effect on the world around us. It can be a positive one, it can be a neutral one, or it can be a negative one. It's up to us to choose that. If we focus all of our intent on the same outcome, that's the reality we'll move into. In what ways are Starseeds activating now? I stated earlier, I have seen more excitement in more people's eyes recently about their personal missions than I think I've ever seen in my life. Raise your hand if, in the last year especially, you've become more empowered and have felt this urgent need to focus on your mission. Yeah, and it's not just people getting excited because they heard a new idea or concept. This is occurring with people from a wide spectrum of different belief systems. Gotcha.
Hi, Corey. I'm kind of new to following what you've been doing on cosmic disclosure. And how do you tell if you are a starseed and what your mission would be? How do you discover that or find that information?
Usually that occurs in your awakening process. And I hope my wife doesn't mind me bringing up her. Right before I started to talk to David Wilcock and come out publicly with this information, I had never told Stacy any of this. She had, of course, observed things like me, calling out at night and hearing weird things, but nothing of this extent. And at the time, if I would have told her, she would have taken our 2 kids and moved to Missouri. Yeah. So right when I was getting to a point where I had to start talking about it, I was guided to get a book. It's How to Change the Habit of Being Yourself. What's his? Joe Dispenza? Dr. Joe Dispenza, yeah. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I felt guided to get the book. I never read it, but Stacy read it. And at some point through the book, all this information started hitting her, and she started freaking out. And she came to me, and she's like, "What's happening?" And I told her, "You're having a download. It's okay, just sit back, enjoy." And so she kicked back, and it was very quickly after that I was able to start telling her all of these different details, and in a way that I knew she wasn't going to flip out on me. So it's within that awakening process that she realized that she had a mission and that she was a starseed. So if you're getting to a point in your awakening, if you've been asleep for a long time and you're starting to feel like you have a mission, you're being drawn here, then you're a starseed. But for you to feel it yourself, it's going to take a little bit further in your journey before you can, see the different signs and have the validations that you need. And that's my humble opinion. I'm no expert on that, of course.
We'll do one more question here, and then we'll go on.
Hi, Corey. Thank you for your thoughts. Is there any way that we can go back to a lecture point, and you can tell us more about the Sphere Alliance and about the avians? And I am very impressed by your ability to all of a sudden be a messenger of humanity to all these other beings. Can you please elaborate more on that subject? Thank you.
Okay. I'll give a brief version. I was first contacted by the Blue Avians through dreams, and it was one of those things that you knew was not a dream. Tyr appeared and was doing hand signals, and there was no communication that I was aware of. And I woke up from this dream, and I remember I was a little bit disturbed because I knew it wasn't a dream. I didn't know if someone was manipulating me. As Roger and my team can tell you, I don't go in doe-eyed with everything. I challenge things. So I was worried. I knew the technologies that were out there that could manipulate people. And finally, Tyr appeared in front of me in a physical form. When it was proposed to me that I would be up talking in front of a lot of people or representing them in front of a large number of people, I was more than freaked out. I'm an extreme introvert, and I have a weak voice. I mean, I had all these excuses that I was offering up to why they should not ask me to do this job. But all I heard was, it's of no consequence, it's of no consequence. And they told me that I had agreed to do this at some point. Since then, they have had me, I guess, interface with them for a number of different beings. And they've been delivering or pushing me to deliver the Blue Avian message. The one of, become more loving, more service to others on a daily basis, to forgive those who've, hurt us, and biggest of all, forgive ourselves. And by doing this, we'll stop the wheel of karma, and we will have an opportunity to have this conscious renaissance that other beings in our local star cluster have reached. It's our turn. Any other questions before I move on, or was that it? Okay, one more. If someone could move that fan closer to me, it'd be great. If there's anyone here to do that.
Hey, Corey. My name is Jasher. She started off introducing you by saying you were an empath, and you started this path at an early age, or at least being prepared to interact with different beings. Was there a practice that you had to, as a sovereign being, to protect your mind and your heart when interfacing with different entities? And would that practice be applicable sort of on a broader scale?
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see people offering some sort of broad stroke way to protect yourselves. One of the things that, before they taught us to a different method, a certain method to protect ourselves, they basically profiled us. Each person were very different in personality types, our belief systems play into it, what you believe is possible. There are a lot of different things that play into the type of defense that will work for you. With me, it was, I would, when I felt attacked, I was putting basically a torsion field vortex around myself and mentally pulling each end, and it would like snap together in the middle. And that would, it was somehow sending some sort of, something was happening on the etherical level that it gave me protection, and it caused feedback on those that were trying to harm me during interfacing. But it could occur so quickly that you couldn't use those types of defenses. Some of these beings were very invasive when they interfaced with you, and they use different ways of interfacing. Some of them, you hear your own inner monologue voice. You'll hear things come like that. But others, they will use flashes, memories, of your life, smells that remind you of something, tastes. It's all of them together. They'll use all of them together. There are a lot of different ways that they can, affect you, of course. But it was, a lot of times it was just a crapshoot. You get what they'd call an etheric headache or hangover, basically, and it would be the worst migraine you'd ever had, and they'd last 3 to 5 days, and you just lay in bed. So yeah, even there was, that type of communication is occurring so quickly, at light speed, that there's really no reaction time to be able to defend yourself.
Let's keep going here for a little
Okay.
bit,
Yeah,
time-wise,
we'll keep
and then
going.
we can come back to a general Q&A at the end.
So how can creativity and inspiration change the world? This is the group here at this expo, very creative people. Now, if we can use media, music, art to plant seeds in the co-creative consciousness of the mass consciousness, we can begin to kick in that 100th monkey effect, but we can also prepare them for when they do start to hear some of these disclosures that are very difficult to hear. A lot of us want to believe that disclosure is going to be a kumbaya moment, but it's going to be it's going to be one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to this planet. That's what disclosure is going to be. But it's, I guess I've said before, all evolution occurs through stress. And this is going to be a major stressful evolution, but it's one that's far overdue. So what can we do? If we put our talents into our arts, our media, our music, each one of us is on the front line and a soldier in this battle to affect the co-creative consciousness. We have a lot more power than we've been led to believe. And I've basically went over that as well. What does unity in the community mean? We don't have to agree on most things even. The only thing that we really need to agree on is that none of us have the answers, and that if we can unify this community, we can affect massive change. And I think, we do have troublemakers out there that are always trying to stir up problems, but for the most part, I've never seen people more willing to work together. People that usually, keep their work from each other, this is mine, no, this is mine. Well, now they're sharing and they're working together. And we definitely need more of the unity. What is the next 3-year window? Why is that 3-year window that Thierry told me about so important? When he was talking to me about this mass consciousness, he stated that the next 3 years is a window that is critical for humanity to begin to work to affect the rest of the mass consciousness. We have to have a major change, or we may miss that optimal temporal reality. And if we just sat back and waited for others to do the work, then we're just as much to blame. How does the solar sneeze factor into all this? There are a number of ancient religions that allude to a solar event that occurs on a cycle. The programs have used remote viewing. I believe it was Ed Dames that did a remote viewing about the kill shot, that he believed that the sun was going to explode and it was going to take out the Earth. Now, in the programs, there are different versions of what they think will occur when there is this solar event. Many people believe there'll be a large like 360-degree mass coronal ejection that will take out our electronics for weeks or permanently. And if that occurs, a lot of people think that that's when that is going to be the best time to usher in all these new technologies after the infrastructure has been taken out by this electromagnetic pulse. And of course, we have people in the programs that are more esoteric or religious that believe that it's going to be an ascension event. They believe that when this solar event occurs, that people are going to be turned to bodies of light. So you have, within these programs and even within the cabal, you have a wide range of people. You have the pragmatic people that, the show me people, and then you have the religious people. This is where it sounds a little preachy, I guess. What can people do now to prepare for these coming changes? All of the karma, all of the things that we've refused to deal with in life, raise your hand if all of a sudden you've noticed that it's popping up in your face, you're having to deal with it. Well, that's actually a blessing. All of these things, all of these traumas, pains that we haven't dealt with are like third density anchors. When these new energies are passing through us, there's drag. These third density experiences cause drag and hold us back. If we deal with all of our trauma and stop the wheel of karma, then we're changing the world one person at a time. We're also showing people through example that forgiveness can occur, and we're going to be prepared at least for whatever this event is. All of us have different ideas about what this event is, but there's definitely an event coming. Oh, looks like we're at the end. We are doing a new graphic novel series. We've gotten together. William Tompkins is excited to be a part of it. It's going to be exciting. We're going to do a graphic novel and a motion graphic movie. We're going to be starting a crowdfunding campaign for it very soon. But that's one of the ways that we're going to try to affect the mass consciousness. And how many of you out there have an idea of how to affect not only the mass consciousness, but the world in a positive way? Do you have a plan? Do you have social media? It's great. Yeah, got Trump elected. You can do anything with it, right? Yeah.
We got one question here on the back.
Okay.
Hi, Corey. Thanks for being here. My partner and I came down from Mount Shasta today to see you. And I maybe have missed it in some of the series with David Wilcox. I haven't seen it all, but I have two questions. One is, when we go through this ascension process or what you're describing, is it going to be a completely different level of awareness, or are we going to be seeing ETs and non-terrestrials on Facebook taking pictures with the president and stuff? That's my first question. The second question is, and I may have missed this, but when was the most recent time that you've had interactions with Tir or any of these beings?
It usually happens very sporadically in clusters when I have these meetings, and it's been a while now. And it's weird in those times where I'm not having that connection or communication. It's almost like a little bit of a withdrawal. You're not getting information. A lot of times the information they give you is, not that palatable, especially, I think I talked on Cosmic Disclosure recently how, they punched me in the gut 6 months ago, letting me know how manipulative I'd been, in my life. And, that was something that I immediately started to work on and spent a lot of time thinking about. But they'll give you time, the time that you need. And usually Kari will give me a little bit of counseling, especially during the rougher things. As far as people doing selfies with ETs, that's anyone's guess at this point. I don't think anyone can predict how disclosure is going to unfold and how they're going to acclimate us to different non-terrestrials. There are a number of different programs out there that discuss the acclimation process. We've actually been wanting to get together with a lot of mental health professionals. Whether they believe in UFOs or not, we're trying to get kind of a think tank together to have them come up with different ways to help people if there is a disclosure. You know, to study all the different personality types, the different religions and the different personality types, and come up with a plan how these people might react and disseminate that plan to all the other healthcare mental health professionals. So there's a lot that we as a community are going to be we're going to be responsible for helping people after disclosure, after we get over our shock, because we're going to find out that we were wrong about a lot of stuff. And like David Wilcox said, we're going to be helping loved ones get out of bed, making them take a bath, you know, making them eat. It's going to be a hard time.
When Corey and I were talking about this format today, about dialoguing, the idea is to bring people together to talk about this stuff. The fracture that happens between all of us, where we're not communicating, we're not talking to each other, the dialogue needs to start within the community here. So the idea of exploring this format in a speaking presentation is kind of what we're trying out here. We've got another gentleman who's got a question.
Hi, Corey, this is Sergio. We were recently watching an episode of, I think it's Open Minds with Regina Meredith on Gaia, and the person being interviewed, the lady, was putting forth an idea I hadn't heard of. It was pretty wild, but she called it quantum jumping or reality shifting, where people identify that, okay, maybe I have an illness or a disease right now, and I know that there's a reality that exists where everything is the same, but I don't have that illness. So I'm going to either jump into that reality or bring that reality here into my current state, and now I exist without that disease. And they were pointing out several examples of people having done that in some kind of way. So I'm curious if you've heard of that. That was all in the context of the Mandela effect as well. Oh, was it? So
okay, that's interesting. I'm definitely familiar with the concept. That's just another aspect of our co-creative consciousness. And there is also a lot more of a mental and body-mental connection and a way to mentally manipulate your body than most people, especially here in the West, know. A lot of people in the East have been using a lot of these techniques for, you know, thousands of years. But, you know, it's fairly new to the West. But, yeah, I've heard of these concepts. I'm not familiar with that person, though.
Okay, who is the negative race that keep coming in people's houses and paralyzing them?
Who is the what?
It's a negative race that keep coming in people's house and paralyzing. A lot of people have been coming up and said, I've been paralyzed multiple times.
Right, and the skeptics say it's sleep paralysis, you know, which does occur. But, you know, even in our programs, when they go down to like a neighborhood, they will delta wave the neighborhood. They'll put everyone into a deep state, a lower state of consciousness that, you know, is one of the states of sleep. You know, that's why if you awake during one of those situations, no matter what you do, you cannot wake up the person next to you if you're not affected by it. Now, a lot of these technologies used not only by humans in these programs, but different non-terrestrial groups. It is very easy for them to cause you to affect your neurology remotely, to not only give you sleep paralysis, but to make you get up, walk out the door, open the door, close the door behind you, walk down the street, almost like you're, you know, I mean, literally remote controlling you. Their technology is so much more advanced, and they understand the mind-body connection. I'm not really familiar with people wearing just that description of wearing black clothes. A lot of the times, if a person is abducted by a non-terrestrial, they will be brought, after they're brought back, they are re-abducted by the military and with advanced technology. And they have a much messier way of messing with our memories when they're done. And a lot of these people are people that, they'll wear alien-type costumes, they'll wear all black, but it could be anywhere from an ET group to a military group.
I have a question about the Schumann resonance that's been going up lately. The highest it ever went was like 36, and then over Easter it hit like 90. Is that also helping with the ascension and with our evolution?
Well, if indeed the Schumann resonance is fluctuating, and I've talked to a few people in the programs that debate that, some of them say that it's not. But the feedback that I've been talking about, our star system traveling through this different part of the galaxy, through this, basically it's an interstellar high energy dust cloud. And the energy is, since the star is like a torsion field, the energy is wrapping around the north and south poles, going in through the top and bottom, but it feeds out through our star. The energy feeds out through our star into our system. That's why all the different planets, the temperatures have been raising on there's not just global warming, we have many different, it's solar system warming. So I believe this energetic change is going to, affect, possibly the Schumann resonance, but, definitely part of the EM field that we can't easily measure.
Anyway, I listened to both of your interviews, co-interviews with Cobra, and I was really fascinated. Thank you for that. And I'm really curious. Cobra talks quite a bit about these archons who are supposedly running the show. And I've heard the whole Anunnaki story, not just with David Wilcox, but Barbara Marciniak, and you're probably familiar with the Anunnaki. My question is, who or what are these archons, and are they related at all to the Anunnaki? Are they one and the same? Do you have any knowledge about who these archons are, and are they related to the so-called Anunnaki? Thank you.
Well, I hear, archons, the jinn, a lot of different terms, but there have been etheric type beings, as strange as this sounds, that people using different forms of black magic and also technologies have caused basically tears between these different dimensions, not densities, but realities. And what Tyr Air told me is that these beings, these disembodied beings that are controlled through through contracts, they'll get a certain amount of loosh if they follow, if they follow the lead of one of these dark magicians. I was told that when we have this solar event, that it'll change the energy or the vibratory energy of our solar system in a way that these beings will not be able to be here anymore. He stated that they will be pushed back somewhere called the outer realm. And I am definitely not a scholar when it comes to all the different jinn, archons, and all of that. So, but that's the best explanation I have.
Hi, Corey. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you're doing. But my question is about the ancient builder race. So, correct me if I'm mistaken, but from what I understand, they're a feline race. but also how do they fit in with the Sphere Being Alliance? Do you know what density they are? Did they ascend into being the blue avians or the sphere beings, or I don't know, where are they now?
Okay. For a number of years in the beginning of the programs, we were coming across very ancient structures in our solar system, on the moon, Mars, various planetoids that were extremely ancient. Not only that, but where we saw that there at one point glyphs or writing had been, it had been wiped away, much like, you know, the kings of Egypt would wipe away the history of competing king or ideology. The information that we have is that this group existed in our solar system 1.8 to like 2.4 billion years ago. What we found out after a large amount of time was that our local stellar neighborhood is made up of approximately 51 or 52 stars. When we started to travel to these different star systems, we were finding out that this ancient builder race technology was spread throughout the whole 52 star cluster. And at one point, they had developed some sort of defense grid to protect that 52, that local star cluster. At some point, groups that were being protected within this grid were warring with each other, and they hijacked this technology to use against each other, and they inadvertently brought down this protective grid. That's when all of these, what I was told were genetic farmer races came in and began to use, I guess, what the most advanced and coveted technology out there is genetics. And they... When was... It occurred approximately 500,000 years ago, about the time of the, was it Tiamat that exploded. That's the information on the glass pads in the program anyway.
Hi, I have a question about the 100th monkey theory, in that if
About what?
The 100th monkey.
Oh, 100th monkey.
If something were to be not true or not correct, I suppose would be the way to put it. With evolution, and a group or a population were to be deceived, would they continue that till the 100th monkey was also deceived? Is that potentially possible?
I'm not quite sure I follow. The 100th monkey effect, are you saying that if they get bad information, is the bad information shared amongst the consciousness? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, any information, any and all information is shared amongst us and available to us through our group consciousness. And many people have begun to develop the ability to tap into some of the Akashic records and some of the knowledge out there.
Yeah, actually, I have a quick question. With all the distractions going on in today with the world and events and those kind of things, are there any new updates with Atlantis and what's happening with that as far as information coming out to kind of subdue things? Or from some of your other talks, have the cabal been cleaned out in these underground bunkers? Like, kind of what's the update with that whole situation?
Right, the last that I heard, that they weren't taking out all the underground bunkers, that there were certain bunkers that were built under FEMA, but were built for other purposes. Once there was a change in command, when the presidency changed, these certain groups were refusing to vacate, and they went in and removed them. As far as anything new on Antarctica, I've had a couple of briefings, but they've been basically just about more about the Raytheon-type facilities that were built in Antarctica starting in the late 1950s. If you've seen the video about Project Iceworm, I believe is it Camp Freedom, that was built in Greenland in the late 1950s. It was a secret base that was built where they were going to put missile silos. Well, this type of modular building under the ice was used to build a large number of facilities in Antarctica close to some of these recovered craft that were deep under the ice. If you plan on sticking around for David Wilcock, he is going to have a whole presentation on this with much of the updated intel, both from myself and Pete Peterson.
Hi. I wanted to know whether or not you have any information about the following. So at the very beginning of the talk, you started talking about the analogy that you were given regarding the battered wife and the wife beater, as it were. And I'm just wondering, in the universe, the way you've been shown, is it typical to have, civilizations learn out of atrocities and adversarial type of an interaction, or our particular world is a special kind of a basket case?
It's definitely a special kind of basket case, but from the information that I have, most of the stars in our local star cluster have gone through a very similar process. Most of them have related to us that their problems were nowhere near as significant as ours, but that they had a very similar, I guess, evolution through adversity to get to where they're at.
Hi, Corey. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I just have a quick question about, on this week's episode of Cosmic Disclosure, you shared about how you were in Boulder at the hotel, and people knocked on the door, and you had to do these briefings, and the guys walked out. I'm just wondering if there's any follow-up on that. Have there been any more opportunities to give briefings?
Yeah, interestingly enough, while I was on that trip, Sigmund, the guy, we're given the name Sigmund to this, he feels higher than a colonel. He never wears any fleer on his uniform. But he came and talked to me about doing more of these briefings. And he said, for the love of God, do not talk about 8-foot-tall blue birds. He said, just talk about the programs and the technology. Don't talk about any of that. And he wanted me to not talk about it in public either. And I told him I couldn't do that. So yeah, I had about 13 people get up and just walk out in the middle of me giving this briefing. And the people that did stay had a weird grin on their face, like an idiot, looking around, jerking their head around, waiting for someone to jump out and saying they were punked. So they did not go well. They did not go well, and they've been suspended for now.
Corey, here, right here.
Oh, okay.
So I have no problem with my fear of becoming fully empowered and completely whole and heart open. But I do have a fear, and I was wondering what to do with it, of if I get enough information. I've got a Sound Healing Research Foundation. We're doing research, and we're starting to get more information. What do we do with the fear where we get enough information and enough knowledge and enough consciousness that we actually come up against the higher levels of the cabal or of these other beings? You know what I mean?
I think I do. One thing that, if you're in this field, don't ask questions that you can't handle the answer to. You need to be prepared. There's a lot of, how can you prepare for what you don't know, though? When we get a lot of information about you know, we know the main thing that they've been trying to cover up is not that they're ETs, it's, you know, their technology. But think about all the crimes against humanity they have perpetrated against us to keep that secret. That is what they are, they're terrified. They're terrified about that coming out. That's why you hear them talking about, you know, being turned into wind chimes in the middle of DC, hanging from lampposts. They're really worried about that.
Good evening. My name is Amaranta, or in my traditional language, Huautli. I am of Central American descent, and my direct relatives are from Nahuizalco, El Salvador, Mayan people. And I'm honored that you address the Mayans in your encounters when you're talking about the beings that you have become familiar with. I've been recognized in my community as given privileges to conduct gatherings and do prayers, and we always recognize our star cousins above. That being said, what can you tell me about these beings that you have encountered? Because I'm sure you're aware, but people in Central American countries have been dispersed because of war, and thus we've been disconnected from our traditions. What can you inform me about?
It was relayed to me that this group, the Earth has been used as a place for refugees, cosmic refugees. They were here for a long period of time as cosmic refugees, and at a certain point, those of them who had not interbred with others outside of their group were picked up and taken, and they disappeared, and I was told it was like 40 million of them. When it comes to what I know about them, they give me big smiles, but they refuse to interface with me. They'll interface with Gonzalez, and then Gonzalez will tell me, you know, what they're communicating to him. But for some reason, they just will not interface with me. He is actually part Caucasian and part Latin, yes.
Hi, Corey. My name is Monica, and I wanted to ask about the gender imbalance for the extraterrestrials that come here and communicate with humanity. When you go into the secret space program or the corporate conglomerate and those high levels that are interfacing with these groups, they're very male-dominated. And I'm wondering if you've gotten any information or any messages about us balancing that, and if that can help us to evolve it or get on a better timeline or anything, if you've gotten any information like that.
Well, we're a long way away from this, but not only do we need a balance of, well, I guess, equality with women and men, we need balance of the feminine and masculine in each individual. I don't know how this is going to occur. I believe that once we get to a point where we get a disclosure and then stop fighting each other and begin this consciousness renaissance, that the early process of that consciousness renaissance is going to cause a lot of this balance to kick in. But sadly, I don't see that occurring anytime soon. Now, within the programs, I definitely saw women, and they were underrepresented. But I tell you what, these were some of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. For the women to get into these programs, they were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. So, yes, there is in the programs, there's a discrepancy in races being represented, as well as males and females. That's something that we all have to wrestle with in society as it is, and it shows up on every level.
I'm so grateful to be here and meet you in person, Corey. I've been working for 30 years with international scientists to use science as a seeing as believing stepping stone to actually show that we're indivisible on instrument even when we're thousands of miles apart. and that the whole of humanity actually can share a commonly sensed intelligence as a species. And I'm wondering if you know other scientists or filmmakers. I'm working on a series of films that shift viewing audiences into unity consciousness by sharing undivided attention in a single body, heart, and mind consciously. If there's anyone here or anyone you know that you could put us in touch with to help us collaborate on this worldwide effort, that would be great.
That's an excellent point you just brought up. We've had a couple dry runs at creating, we're trying to create a network that will bring people together that want to contribute art or contribute in any way to putting these projects out there. And we're not looking just to fund or help our own projects. There are plenty of people out there that have projects like your own. We would like to get a kind of a, not a forum, but a way for them all to communicate with each other, exchange resources, and help each other find different types of professionals that you're looking for to assist you, and have a, it's part of the unity in the community thing, having a symbiotic relationship to where we're not competing with each other, but we're assisting each other and getting out this message. That's something that we're in the early stages of attempting to do. And from what I've heard recently, people are doing the same thing. Other people are doing the same thing.
Corey, I have two separate but related questions. One is about the sexual abuse phenomenon on the planet. And I'm under the impression that this is something that is it's a plague that's been given by the reptilians or perhaps another group, and that one of the methods they use is to manipulate people's timelines so that they retroactively will have experiences of sex abuse. And this is one of the ways of spreading the sex abuse on the planet, because these beings get food every time somebody is upset by this type of memory.
Loosh, yeah.
Is that what you...
Yeah, the energy that it's referred to as loosh, the energy that they feed off of or vampire from.
So do you know, are you aware of this time manipulation abuse that is part of why people can't remember their memories until later, or why their family members won't admit it or can't remember it because everybody's in different timelines?
Now, there can be a timeline aspect because there were timeline aspects to the secret space program, overlapping timelines. But in a lot of this training, they use physical and sexual trauma to not create schisms in your psyche, but we naturally want to disassociate from those traumas. So the trauma that we're trying to work on, trying to figure out, a lot of times it's just a tool to cause us to compartmentalize that memory. There might be a deeper memory behind that terrible experience. That terrible experience was just used as a way to cause you to disassociate and compartmentalize that memory.
Right, and I'm talking about the everyday person, that this is just rampant. It's just unbelievable. And I just want to name it as an infestation that is not human in origin.
Yeah, when we do have a full disclosure, all of the occultic and sexual abuse stuff, when that stuff comes out, that's going to be one of the things that causes a lot of us to hang these people from light posts.
Okay, and my second question is, I'm under the impression that this rash of children on the spectrum, Asperger's and autism, is gray alien abduction of women in pregnancy, and then their children are hybrided. Are you aware of this, or does this resonate for you?
I have not heard that, but there's so much going on in these different genetic farmer programs that, I mean, there are 22 main programs that these non-terrestrial groups are performing on humanity. And it's of a genetic nature, but it's also of a spiritual nature. It's about, to them, they're studying, evolution in different energetic fields from stars, and also the evolution of consciousness. So some of the programs are not only of a genetic nature, but they're of a spiritual nature. Some of these beings are agreeing to incarnate down here, I guess starseeds, you could call them, but they are doing so to take part in this grand experiment, and a lot of the times people being abducted are these non-terrestrials are abducting basically their own people who have incarnated here and agreed to it, because there are laws, cosmic free will laws, that all of them have to abide by, but they all find ways around them.
Okay,
That's,
great.
That's one of them.
Third and final question for the women in the room, because talk about gender. Can you say more about Kari? Because we hear about her from you, but very little. And is there a way that we as women can be in closer contact with her telepathically, or have there been any messages from her to you for the women and the priestesses of Earth?
Actually, yes. Now, one of the things that they have been a little disturbed about is how many people are reaching out to them and praying to them, and that totally goes against what they're trying to, they're trying to get us to become self-empowered and to look inwardly. Now, I've had many people, I've got some really good friends that are priestesses and do that type of training, and many of them have been able to connect with her. So yes, it's possible, but keep in mind the intent of why you're reaching out, because they really want us right now to be focusing within and looking within for the answers, because that's where they're at.
Hi, Corey. Thank you for your courage. My question is around the solar event within the next 3 years. Has Raw Tier Air specifically stated what he either knows or feels will occur, is my first question. And the second one is, if he hasn't mentioned or you don't feel he will state what it will be, could it be that if we hit the 100 monkey effect, we will get the outcome of everyone raising to a fourth dimension, basically a good scenario, or if we don't hit the 100 monkey effect, we may get the not so good scenario where we get the electrical shutdown and so forth? Thank you.
Right, yeah, if we just sit back for the ride and not, for lack of a better word, try to manipulate the mass consciousness to go in the right direction, then yeah, we're along for the ride of wherever it goes. Now, I'm sorry, what was your first question? Right. Tier Air told me that we're not sitting back waiting for things to happen. Strangely enough, the entire co-creative consciousness of humanity, even the non-terrestrials that are in our star system right now, their co-creative consciousness, that is what is manipulating and guiding and creating these different realities and timelines. So they can't really say this solar event will happen in 3 years. They can't, they can't, they have probable futures of what could occur. But we are constantly, through the observer effect, changing things. And that's, that's the point of all of us getting together and focusing on the same intent, is for us to be able to take a hold of the steering wheel and guide us to that area. That was both questions, right? I think I answered. Okay.
Thanks, Corey. I have 2 questions.
Oh, okay.
The first is, I was under the impression that the reptilians or races that were interfering with our planet were removed after 2012. I've heard different messages from different places and just wanted to get clear on that. It kind of seems like they have been removed because things have been falling apart globally.
I don't have any information about any particular species being removed. There was a barrier that was created that has prevented different groups from coming and going to our star system. Kind of a, I guess, like a large field that they can't penetrate. I have not heard about any one group being kicked off the Earth or out of the solar system at this point. I haven't. It's just not my information.
And my second question is, I think it was last Friday morning in 3 or 4 cities across the United States, there was a power outage. It was like San Francisco, Financial District, New York City, I think LA, and maybe Dallas. Do you have any comments on that?
I haven't gotten a briefing since that occurred, but I'm fairly certain that had to do with the geomagnetic activity between the sun and the Earth. I haven't heard anything about there being any type of hacking or anything like that to bring down the grids. But then again, I'm speculating here because I haven't been briefed. It's been a little while since I've been briefed.
Hi, Corey.
Hey, Foster.
I would love for you to address a little more in depth the topic of time. I find it the single most mind-boggling topic for me in my research, and we're working with some scientists who are using quantum fields to manipulate the effect of time on matter in a certain sense. They can move biological cells, they can advance the aging of them, or they can pause the aging, or they can actually reverse the aging in such a way that cancerous cells go back to their wholeness. So they're affecting a biological timeline. But to me, that's not quite the same as traveling in time. And I wonder if the classic paradoxes of if you actually go back in time, then maybe your parents didn't meet, and all of a sudden I'd snap out of existence and so forth. Is that, in your experience, is that a function of moving on different timelines so that it doesn't affect the world? Could you just clarify the time for us?
Clarify time, wow. Now, when I was in the programs, they were manipulating the stages of cells through, and some of them said that they were manipulating them on a quantum level that were basically bringing them forwards and backwards in time for that one organism, if you will. Now, that organism is not being moved within time linearly, but what is being occurred is that it's certain fields can be applied that will advance or reverse the state of a cell or an organism. And it sounds to me like that is what is occurring instead of there actually being a temporal field that is being created within electromagnetic temporal field that is being created that is actually creating some sort of time distortion within it. Does that sound right? Or? Yeah, that sounds accurate. When you are jumping in time, explain that a little more. Well, I've only jumped in time in the way that I covered long distances and an almost instantaneous time period. Now, these portals that they use, if you've seen Stargate, you see, it's a flat portal against a wall with, Ripley like a pond. What they have is these things are set up by devices. There'll be 3, sometimes 4 devices around a room pointed to a center point. And what occurs is that when they create this portal, it creates what looks like a sphere that has a mirage effect to it. If you've seen above the highway, that mirage effect. And the ground seems to sink down in almost a conical way. People can walk into it from 360 degrees around it, and when they walk in, they get smaller and it looks like they're walking downhill. And when they come out on the other side at 360 degrees. They would also use these to transport, building materials like, large iron beams or something like that. They would put them in the floor or on the ground, turn on the field, and the sphere would appear in the middle of the steel beams, and the steel beams would fold up and then go in, almost like they're being sucked in like spaghetti. So that is definitely manipulating time and space in an electromagnetic way. Now, for me to give the description of, what is exactly occurring, I can't. I can tell you how the cosmic web works, how the these portals work. There's what we call, the cosmic web. And I'm sure you've seen images of Hubble where they've taken different types of exposures and different spectrum images to where you see all the different galaxies are connected, and it looks like a web. Well, between each of those galaxies is an electromagnetic filament connection. And being that the correct physics model is nothing like the classical physics model, it's a electroplasmic torsion universe. The whole universe is a giant torsion field. A lot of the places where people are thinking they're seeing dark matter, there are torsion fields that are, affecting the way we're seeing light. Now, between each star within a galaxy is this same electromagnetic filament connection. Within each star system, there's an electromagnetic filament connecting to everything in that star system, every planet, every moon. They've learned to calculate all these planets. They have grids or ley lines. As the Earth is rotating and that electromagnetic filament is going deeper, further out, up and down around the Earth as it's spinning, it is activating different nodes. And think of the path of least resistance. It's like it travels like electricity, and these nodes will give the ability to open up a portal. Will give you a pathway, an entrance, and they found a way to calculate when and where these would open or be available. Sometimes they appear deep underground or under the ocean, at ground level, or even in our upper atmosphere. So these, they use this hyperdimensional mathematics model to be able to calculate the spin of a planet, how to calculate, and they have a code that's much like TCP/IP to be able to travel between these different star systems, but they have to calculate as planets are moving around in our star system, this electromagnetic filament will connect to our moon, or it'll connect to some other body in our system. So you have to calculate it just right, because it works like electricity. It's traveling the path of least resistance. So it's traveling through the sun, and whatever node is able to create that connection is where the portal is able to be opened. And they've been able to, through the assistance of non-humans, they finally were able to calculate it in a way that they could send humans and craft through these portals. Before that, they weren't calibrating it right, and they weren't able to send organics through. They're only able to send equipment through these portals, and they had to use some of the solar warden craft to travel to where the materials were delivered. But through the help of a non-terrestrial group, we figured out that hyperdimensional mathematics model, which we've applied to many other things, by the way, to be able to successfully go through all of these different gate systems.
Corey, Tom, nice to meet you. Question one: when you were doing your 20 and back, and you were feasting on replicated food, were you able to eat as much food as you wanted to without gaining weight? And if so, can I have one of those machines?
Yeah. No, and you didn't always eat the food out of the printers. You would eat out of the galley a lot of the time. But no, you metabolize the food the same as you do here. I know David's talked about some that you eat it and it cleans your teeth and wipes your butt on the way out, you know? Yeah, I didn't experience any of that type of food when I was in there.
And a second question, if a big event's going to happen within the next 3 years, whether it be an ascension level type of event or extinction, whatever the case be, if we're talking 100 years from now that we're going to start doing full disclosure, why are we even having that conversation if the powers that are resisting have no leverage or have no reason once this ascension happens or this event happens? Why should they even bother? Why should we even be talking about what happens 100 years from now for that reason? Because one, they don't have any leverage after that, or two, something happens to where it doesn't matter what we do in 100 years anyways.
Yeah, well, we can't be apathetic. We have a lot of different beliefs of what's going to happen in 2 years, 7 years, 10 years. But, you know, what happened with, you know, the millennial situation with the computers? You know, nothing happened. 2012, nothing overtly happened. Something did happen, but it was more of an energetic thing. So 2 years, 3 years from now, we have a strong belief that something happens and we kick back and do nothing, just like a lot of people criticize religious people for doing. You know, instead of going out and saving the world, they kick back saying, no, someone's going to come back and take care of everything. You know, that type of apathy is dangerous. So I say we have to pretend as if things are going to keep going as they are now forever, that nothing is going to change unless we are the change. We get out and cause the change. If we get more and more people to show up doing, 50 different cities, doing, 100,000 person marches in all these different cities, and having signs about health technologies that have been suppressed. Listen to Foster Gamble. There are a lot of technologies out there that can extend our life and improve our quality of life, but they're being suppressed. Those are things that are available now, and those are the things that we have to demand. No one's going to release them. They have a 100-year timetable that they're sticking to start releasing all these different things. And if we kick back, that's how it's going to work. But if we start going out and protesting, writing books, doing movies about it, then the rest of the population aren't going to be as skeptical when they see people out demanding that these technologies are released. But we got to start somewhere. We've got to come together. And I was talking recently, you hear all of these different people, even from the 50s, that were contactees. What were the two most consistent things that the ETs have disseminated to them? That we need to grow spiritually, to raise our consciousness, to become more mature. And the second one is to demand the release of suppressed technologies that could change the world. And a lot of us are working on both fronts right now.
Hey, Corey. In my 48 years, I've never heard an extraterrestrial race talk about the Earth being flat. Why is this a...
Thought I was going to make it through without a flat Earth question.
Why is this a topic now?
Yeah, this was a group that sat together, and a lot of these NSA people, they do what they call, not mental exercises, can't remember what they call them, but they'll put out what they think is a ridiculous idea and then have several people, professionals, argue that idea to see, how they could, prove it, basically, even though it's something they know isn't true. They do that with a lot of different things, but this one that was released is basically a psyop. They wanted to see, is like a study to see how people would take information like that, how they would process it, how, once they accepted it, how they would defend it, how they would come up with other ways to prove it. So it's not only a PSYOP, it's been a sociological study.
That's got to wrap up our time here, everyone. I think,
We're done.
Corey, this has been an awesome experience being able to dialogue like this.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing.
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta. We're going to have our first event that's put on by our production company in Mount Shasta in August, I think the 18th.
18th through the 21st during the eclipse.
During the eclipse. So we're going to have a lot of really big speakers coming. So.
Please say thank you to Corey Goode. Thank you so much, Corey. Amazing work. And yeah, to stay in touch with Corey, there's a website. The website is spherebeingsalliance.com. Spherebeingsalliance.com, so you can get in touch with him. You got that? Spherebeingsalliance.com.
Everybody, we're going to do a meet and greet outside.